just a cold spot on his lip, but it changed his life forever. So, what happens when your life changes without warning and there is no clear path forward? In this series of Navigate Change, Amplify Potential, I sit down with Kent Jones, whose stories are featured in Learn to Love the Roller Coaster. In this episode, Kent shares the moment everything shifted for him, starting with a symptom so small it almost felt dismissible, and how that moment led to a diagnosis that would redefine his life. What makes this conversation powerful is not the diagnosis itself, but the uncertainty that followed. Kent walks us through what it felt like to live in a reality where there are no clear answers, no guarantees, and no roadmap. He shares what it means to keep going when the future becomes unpredictable and when the responsibility to figure things out falls entirely on you. This is a conversation about resilience, but not in the way we typically think about it. It's about facing what you cannot control and deciding who you're going to be anyway.
For me, it's been an aggressive case of progressive multiple sclerosis, and that started 21 years ago. And when it happened, it was kind of a fluke. Sometimes I talk to people that have been diagnosed with MS, and they have a long story about unexplained symptoms and frustrating diagnostic process and all. And I didn't have that. I was fortunate, I suppose, in that regard. I was a very active mountain biker, hiker. I was 37 years old. I went into a doctor's appointment, and he's like, "Yeah, your heart's good. Everything. You're great. Unless there's anything else, I'll see you in a year." Uh, and he's walking out the door, and I said, "There's just this one weird thing." I said, "I got this spot on my lip that feels cold." And he stopped and he turned around, and everything changed after that, because it turned out that innocuous symptom, he was really tuned in, and he sent me off for tests, and I'm kind of rolling my eyes like, "Oh, what machine am I paying for now?" uh, but he was right. It turned out that the cold sensation, the numb sensation that I had on my lip was not normal, and it was indicative of something larger. um, but it was odd. I looked through some of the questions that you had, and that moment when I got diagnosed was kind of anticlimactic. I went through testing, and the doctor, the neurologist that was there, he sent me out for MRIs and all these other things, and he came back and he said, you look like the kind of person. This was 2004. Internet was still relatively new. He goes, "You look like the kind of person that would look up stuff on the internet. Let me tell you what it's not." And he said, "It's not a brain tumor. It's not ALS. It's not." He listed up all these horrible things that he said, "I don't think it's that, but I do think it's MS, multiple sclerosis." And that meant nothing to me. I had no connection. My family, I didn't know anybody with it. I didn't really. It was just something that kind of had been out in the zeitgeist there, I guess. But going through diagnostics and spinal taps and all kinds of stuff. A few months after that, I had an official diagnosis, but I still had no real symptoms to speak of. So it was kind of surreal. It was like, okay, they say I have this awful disease, and I'm starting medicine to prevent it from getting worse. But initially, I didn't have anything. That started, but I did have that cold sensation, and that got worse. And I found myself, and I was doing a consulting business at that time. I had been married a year earlier. I had young children from a past marriage, so I had a very active life. And I find myself in client meetings, and you're trying to give an insightful point and all that, as your face is getting completely numb, and your hand, and it's like, and you're just trying not to let it on, because you can't say, "Excuse me one moment," while I try and find where my nose went or whatever. But but that was what it was like. Or in my case, MS can affect everybody differently, depending on you get. It's a destructive condition where the immune system attacks your nerves, and depending on where it decides that it's going to attack today, that's where your symptoms come from. So anything that's connected to your nerves is fair game. And in my case, the nose and the face was part of it. Occasionally, it would I still get, like, my tongue will be burning or numb or something like that. So again, you're kind of talking to somebody, and you're like, slurring? I think I'm kind of slurring here, and they're going to think I'm drunk, and I'm not. Uh, and then I had balance issues and standing issues. There's a whole long list of fun things. When I got diagnosed, back in the 80s and the 90s, there really were no meds. So there was, good luck to you. By the time I was diagnosed in 2004, they're like, okay, we've got a couple meds that are, we're really excited they can help, and more's on the horizon. In 5 years, we're going to cure this. I've heard that for many years. Um, but and the drugs that they had now are completely outclassed. It's it's the same as if you bought a 2004 Buick back in the day, you might have thought you had a great car. If you're driving a 2004 Buick now, not so much. And that's the sense. The meds have advanced a lot, but at that time they were really primitive. Uh, but I was starting to come to the understanding of wheelchairs and disability, and there were some people talking about that, of going on disability right away. I'm like, why would I do that? And I didn't. I fought it for you know aggressively. I took all the meds and my disability progressed relatively rapidly. I had, in hindsight, they diagnose your severity and your disease course kind of after the fact, because that's one of the things that's challenging about MS is it's completely you live in uncertainty. Is it going to get worse? I don't know. Is the meds going to help? I don't know. Is it what's going to happen next? I don't know. There's nobody can tell you. After you've been through it, then you can look back and say, well, because of this and this and this is your course. But I got 2 years into it, and the meds weren't working, and they said, you're progressing really rapidly. That's not great. But there's this new med that we think you should take. It was pulled from the market because the first group of some patients died that took it, but it was so good for the ones that didn't die. But we've got testing for it now. We think we've figured out how to bring it back, and we'd like you to be part of that. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Sign me up. And 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 so for 2 years, I took this medicine that you could get this fatal brain infection, and that had its own horrible consequences. But I did it, thinking, all right, I'm doing something for science and maybe for me, hopefully, and we'll see where this goes. And then 2 years into that, they said, no, I was still progressing rapidly. By this point, I had gone from being a mountain hiker, to using a cane and a leg brace, and I was still trying to hike up mountains and things like that, but it just wasn't happening. I tried to power through it. Sometimes people, that's their approach to MS. I'm just going to tough through it, and I did my best to do that. But 4 years in, they're like, yeah, we're pulling you off of this dangerous med because you're not getting any better. There's no risk benefit for you. It's back to square one. And I went to Mayo Clinic at that time because I thought, all right, I'll get a second opinion and really tackle this. And I went there, and they did a 2 or 3 day assessment of me and MRIs and all this and that. And then they came out and they said, you have one of the rarest kinds of multiple sclerosis. There's nothing we can do. You should prepare now. If you should do what you want, because by the time you're 50, you're not going to be able to walk or travel. So sorry, there's nothing we can do. And that was hard to hear, but it was also kind of a gift in a weird way, because driving back from Jacksonville, where their clinic was, I was living in Atlanta, and just on the way back, I'm like, okay, I have to figure this out. Nobody's going to do this for me. If it's going to happen, it's going to be for me, and if it isn't, it isn't. And I was okay with it. I actually kind of amused on the radio that 50 Cent song, the Get Rich or Die Trying, came on, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get healthy or die trying. I'm going to find a way.
Ken's story is a reminder that the hardest moments in life rarely come with clarity or direction. They show up quietly, unexpectedly, and often without answers. What stands out is not just what he faced, but how he chose to respond. When he was told there was nothing more that could be done, he made a decision that many people never make. He chose to take ownership of what came next, even without knowing the outcome. as he said he was going to find a way or he would try until the very end. That is what learning to love the roller coaster really represents. It's not about avoiding the drops, it's about deciding how you move through them when they come. If this conversation resonated with you, this series is here to explore more of these moments. Not the polished versions of change, but the real ones, the human ones, the ones where people are figuring it out while they are already in motion.